Hey, welcome back. I'm Sean Barr, and at Looking Point, we help IT organizations make decisions around collaboration, security, and networking. With more web conferencing going on today, we've been asked by a number of our customers, hey, how do I bring in multiple cameras, maybe multiple camera angles into my live web conference? Well, that's exactly what we're going to talk about in this video. This is a Tech Talk. All right, we're back and we are talking about how to bring in multiple cameras into your web meeting. And the key to doing it is a product by Roland called the VR-1HD. So I got it right here. It is actually a VR-1 HD. And so to go over it a little bit at a very high level, it essentially takes in HDMI inputs out of your camera. It can support up to 3 cameras. It has some mic inputs, so you can use the mic inputs to control which camera it auto switches to. There's ways to lay out multiple layouts, and we'll kind of go over that later in the video. But essentially, you can overlay a smaller image from one camera over another image from the other camera. You could use your PC as an input if you wanted to show a video plus your computer screen, and you can control it all with this unit, and it connects to your computer through a USB connection. Essentially what it does from your computer's perspective is it makes it a camera source and an audio source. And so when you go into those meetings, whether it's a Webex meeting, whether it's any other products meeting, it will identify that as your camera source and your audio source if you'd like to. So you could select maybe just the camera source, you could select both the camera and the audio. You have options there, but essentially your computer recognizes it as a single camera, even though multiple cameras are connected to it. Now there's a lot of videos that cover the VR-1HD and all the functions and features. This isn't really a video about that. It's more of a video about how to actually get the unit, what you need to consider from a camera perspective, and how to connect it to your computer and all the gotchas that go along with it. Because I saw a lot of videos on this unit itself, but where I had the biggest challenges is on the actual HDMI output of the camera. With the cameras that we use a lot of cinema cameras, we use some Canon cameras. They had some overlay on the actual HDMI output. So we're going to talk a little bit about that in this video, how you can avoid some of those challenges, and also how to select the right camera for your purposes. Because we spend a lot of time, or I spend a lot of time, trying to figure out what's the best way to actually do this. So I thought of a lot of ways that this could be used, whether you're a corporate type person and you want to do some educational content, whether you're a cook and you want to do some educational content around cooking, whether you're a yoga instructor and you just wanted to have some other angles so you could show the moves and postures correctly. I thought about all those things in each of those perspectives, what you would want to consider, what type of cameras, maybe how much you'd want to spend. So in a corporate environment, maybe you'd spend a little bit more for a cinema grade camera. Maybe if you're a yoga instructor or you're a cooking coach, you don't really care as much as about the cinema quality, as long as you can see it and it's clear. Maybe that's what you care about, and you don't want to be messing with focus and aperture settings and all of that. So we're going to go over all of that. All right, so let's get into some of the gotchas with the VR-1HD, the things that I ran into when we were using it. I don't believe ours came with the HDMI connection that goes from the unit to your computer so you can see your camera and your audio. So if you want to connect it, you need to get one of these cables, and that cable is right here. It's a USB 3.0 cable, and when I first read that, hey, you use a USB cable, I thought, oh, no problem, I'll go dig one out. We've got tons of USB cables around here. But this is a USB 3.0 A to B cable. And so you're going to need to get one of these, and it has this kind of different end on it. Hopefully you can see it. We'll get some other shots of it, but essentially it's just this, you know, A to B USB 3.0 cable. One side's USB, which goes into your computer. This is the connection that goes into the VR1, and it takes in the video and the audio content from it and streams it to your computer. There is an app that you load up, in drivers you can load up, all of that stuff that comes with the unit. But essentially you need this cable or it won't work. So that's the first gotcha. Outside of that, I mean, it's pretty self-explanatory. There's HDMI connections that connect in the cameras. That all seems really easy until you connect the first camera. So I'm gonna stack up some cameras right here, and I'll show you what I mean. All right, so we're back. Now I've got some cameras here that I want to talk through, because that was one of the things that I ran into the most, I guess, I don't know if challenges is the right word, but just the most choice, and just trying to figure out which camera to get, because they don't really tell you, any of these cameras don't really tell you, hey, on the HDMI output, we overlay it with this white little screen or this frame deal. And so that when it passes through the VR1 HD, that's actually what people see on the other end. So let's talk about each one of these cameras. So this is just a Canon 80D with a nice little lens on it. This is a great camera for shooting B-roll or just vlogging, all of that stuff. So if you're gonna use a cinema grade camera like the Canon 80D, you just gotta be aware that in order for it to not show the bracketing in the HDMI output of the signal, you're gonna need to switch it to manual focus. So that's what's up with the 80D. The next camera on the list is the Sony 4K. Now, I really like this camera. This one, I would say, if you are going to be doing a lot of this web streaming, I would say just get these. It's going to be super easy for you to connect in the HDMI connection. It's on the back here, a little HDMI port that you can kind of stick in your HDMI cable. You pop it into the VR-1HD. There's a couple of settings on the menu. There's also a mobile app which you can control the cameras with, which is pretty nice. So the thing about the Sony is it's got a wide angle lens, or a fisheye lens, whatever you want to call it. It also has a mode to crop it down to be more of a standard shot. It has the HDMI output. It's got the menu on the sides. There's a mobile app. This is a really great camera. I think it's around $400, $300 or $400. So it's really cost effective. It has image stabilization. So it's packed with a lot of great features. And one more thing which I'm going to grab, but I'll show you. It's got this, the mount screw, like a lot of higher end cameras have on the bottom. This camera has a little screw here so you can mount it to a tripod. Let me grab something here. I think I got a little tripod here. This is a little tripod, and you can take this camera and just pop it onto the tripod and twist it tight. This is a Manfrotto small little micro stand, but essentially I just mounted it up right there, and you could kind of pop it around. You could put it wherever you needed it to film, and there's a little adjustable ball head here, so you could kind of like focus it in on that, or you could focus it at the ceiling. So this is super convenient. And I really just like it. I think it's simple, it's easy. The only downside is you've got to charge these batteries. And I would assume that if you're doing these web conferences, or if you're doing this for a web conference, you could charge the batteries up. You could probably connect a USB connection to it, so it keeps charging as it's using the battery. I tested with this camera taking the battery out and just connecting the USB cable. That didn't work for me. So you do have to have the battery in here for that to work. But I think this is a great, simple, elegant solution. If you don't want to really mess around with cameras that much, you just want it to work out of the box. Maybe set the setting from the fisheye to the standard, or maybe you stick with the fisheye just because you want it to capture a lot of a shot, and maybe the camera's close up. So this would be my favorite for the simple solve, and with a lot of powerful options. It's the Sony 4K camera. All right, so the next camera is this GoPro. I think GoPros are great. A lot of people have them sitting around. It does have an HDMI out. There is a USB connection, so you can charge the battery just like what we talked about with the Sony while you're recording. and the thing just works. Use it with the VR-1HD. It works, it's great. The downside to this one is you need to wrap it with their little GoPro case, and you got a special little mount deal. If they just had a mount screw, it would make it so much easier. I don't know if that's because of the design of it to try to keep it maybe more intrinsically sealed. But anyway, a mount screw would be so much better for the GoPro. But if you've already got one laying around, you know the mounting options. It just clamps around it, and you can go from there. So those are, I would say, these are the simplest options, the GoPro and the Sony. If I was going to have to buy 3 of these, I think I would go, starting off fresh, I would go with the Sony just because of the screw option and being able to mount it to a tripod and some of the things that are built into the camera. The GoPro works great as well. You just need more equipment to mount it to something, and for me that was a kind of a down for this purpose. That was one of a detractor from the GoPro. The 80D, I don't think you would use this particular camera with this setup, the VR-1HD, and unless you just had the camera already and you didn't want to spend the money on one of these smaller cameras, or if you had a particular shot that you really wanted to get and you wanted the multiple lens options and you didn't mind the manual focus. However, if you were going to go all in, I would go with something like this guy right here. This is it's all built out with a little screen mount because the only screen on this thing is this small one here. So if you're actually shooting video on the move, you got to have a bigger screen. But if you weren't shooting it on the move and you just wanted to use it for this purposes, you could get this thing down to just this little square box. You don't need the handle. You don't need the monitor. It also has a SSD drive that I've put into it, so it can record a ton of footage. But with this, you're streaming, so you don't need to record. You just use this HDMI out to plug directly in. There is a mobile app for this camera, which allows you to control it from your phone. This is, and I should mention, this is the Z-Cam, and there's a couple of options for the Z-Cam. It shoots 4K. It can shoot, I think, 260 frames per second if you wanted to get some super buttery slow-mo. Doing this video with the VR-1HD gave me a good reason to test this camera out, and I would say that this is a really cool camera. But again, it is a cinema-grade camera, so you're going to be manually pulling focus on it. These are the things that you're going to do if you're just really into video and you want it to have a certain look. These 2 cameras are the set it and forget it. Charge the batteries, plug it in, and go. Turn it on, it works. And so I think those are 2 options for you to consider. Hopefully I saved you a ton of time researching these. Any DSLR camera, maybe I can't say any, but most DSLR cameras are going to have some issue with the HDMI out because I think that they are typically built for the HDMI out going to a screen like this so that the person shooting could actually monitor what is being sent. The other thing I will say is, which is a caveat for it, you can get rid of some of the display options when recording. So if you're in recording mode and you use the HDMI out, you can get rid of some of the things that are on the display. But you have to record while you're live streaming. So just for some clarity, each camera is a little different. So we shoot with a Canon 1DX, we shoot with the 80D, we shoot with this one, we shot with the GoPro. So we've shot with a bunch of different cameras. Each one has their own little unique flavor. And that's what I'm saying is just, if you're gonna go with one of these cameras, like a bigger, higher end camera, there's probably going to be more variables with the HDMI out. Just know that going in. With these cameras, it's going to be super easy. You're going to connect the HDMI and go. So I've talked enough about this. Let's get into the actual using the VR-1HD, connecting it to your computer, and get some footage and see what it's like. So let's get into it. Okay, so I've got everything set up. I've got the VR-1 connected. I've got a display over here to my left so I can see what's passing through the VR1. I've got my USB cable connected to my laptop. I've got the GoPro set up, turned on, and connected to the VR1. I've got the Sony 4K connected to the VR1, and I've also got the Z-Cam next to the camera I'm filming with that's connected as well. I've also got the USB connection connected to the laptop. So now the laptop recognizes the VR1 as a camera source. It also recognizes it as an audio source. And to that, I connected a wireless mic into mic 1, the mic 1 port. And the idea here would be if I was shooting something like I was doing a live video stream, maybe I would wear this lapel mic and leverage the audio and the video to go through the VR1. Another option is if you didn't want to spend the money for a wireless lapel mic, you could do they have a number of different mic options that could be wired directly to the XLR port here, port 1 and port 2. The other option is just to use your native microphone built into the computer. If you've got a Bluetooth headset that's paired with the computer, you could wear the Bluetooth headset while you are on your call if you're moving around, things like that. So you just need to think about where is your audio source going to come in. Is it a microphone? Is it a microphone connected to the VR1, or is it going to be a microphone just connected to your laptop when you start your streaming? Okay, so I'm going to jump into a Webex meeting, and you can see how it works. The first thing I'm going to do is open up Webex. All right, so the settings down here on the bottom, I can select my speakers to go through my laptop, which I've done that here. I'm going to select the microphone to be the VR-1HD, and the camera to be the VR-1HD as well. So I'm going to start the meeting. As soon as I start the meeting, what I want to do is I'm going to mute my microphone just so I don't get any audio feedback. I'm going to go ahead and click Start My Video. On the bottom right hand side, it's going to pop up a video dialog displaying my preview, and I can see that the GoPro is now shared, and I can see which button is indicated as the red indicator indicates which camera is live. This is camera 3. This is camera 2, the Sony's camera 2, and I can see that it switched over here to camera 2. And then camera 1 is the Z-Cam, which is going to show myself. And I can see that both in the display, the monitor that I have right here, and I can also see it in my preview that's going out to the far end through the USB. So it's a good confirmation. I can see on the big display what I see here or what the camera's picking up. I can also see on my display here the preview, what I'm sending out to the participants. Now that we've joined the Webex from our local computer here, I've got the USB stream coming through the VR-1HD. I've confirmed that my preview is showing all 3 cameras. The next thing I'm going to do is join from a room system, and this will give you an idea of what a far-end participant would see if they're joining that meeting. And so how I'm going to capture that is I'm going to take a camera into another conference room, join into the Webex, and then you would see what a far-end participant would see as I move through these scenarios, and we'll talk about it here on this video as well. All right, so I'm going to go join from the room system, and I'll be right back. Okay, we got everything set up. We've got the VR-1HD connected to a monitor. We've got the VR-1HD connected to all 3 cameras, the Z-Cam, the GoPro, and the Sony 4K. I have the Sony connected and pointed at the VR-1HD as if I was doing a demonstration of how to use it. I've got my computer joined into a Webex. I've got the USB connection connected to the VR-1HD, and that is going to pass whatever video and audio signal I send through the system to my computer. So when I joined the Webex, I went ahead and selected the VR-1HD camera. I selected the VR-1HD as the audio source for my audio, and an option for the audio that I chose was I am using this wireless mic. I haven't hooked up the lapel because I'm really just doing this from a demonstration perspective, but I would take this lapel mic, I'd put it on and I'd turn it on, and that way I could move around as I'm shooting my video. Another option would be to use the microphone integrated into the laptop, or if you've got maybe a Bluetooth microphone or a Bluetooth headset that you have paired with your laptop, you could select the Bluetooth headset as your source for audio, but for your source for video, select just the VR-1HD. Really, I would play around with the options that work best for what you're trying to accomplish. So, on the far end, I've got a video system, a room system, which is just demonstrating another laptop joining the Webex. Now, if it was a room system or a laptop, the video display is going to look the same, and we've got a camera pointed at that room system to capture any video footage that we're sending. So I'm going to take you through it. Option 1 is just going to be camera 1, the Z cam, and so at the far end they're seeing the similar view that you're seeing from this camera. If I press option 2, that's going to be the Sony camera, and it's pointed right down at the VR1, and this would be for training, showing, hey, press the menu button, use the wheel to control it, make sure you use the on air button. Those types of things you could go through as a training. This would be more like if you were using it to demonstrate a piece of hardware, maybe show someone how to make changes to a camera. You could do it for a whiteboard option. There's endless options that you could use for this type of use case. And camera 3 is really just the GoPro. So if you are an instructor, maybe you have one on a whiteboard, maybe you have one source is your HDMI connection on your laptop, because you can do something like this, which is a picture-in-picture. It's gonna overlay one screen, overlay the primary screen with another screen, and so they could still see you and they could see what you're talking about while you're talking about it. Maybe if you're doing guitar lessons or something like that, you could have one on the guitar itself, really tight in. You could have one on maybe a sheet of music, and you could have a wider shot of yourself that's basically you could talk and interact with the audience, but then you could control it all with these settings here. There's many picture-in-picture options, like I've got another one that I'm showing on the far end, which is showing the front-facing camera and also showing the VR-1HD, so that's another example. All right, so the things that you need to know when using these cameras, because this is where I think the details really matter in setting this up. The Sony camera was pretty much plug and play. I set it to 24 frames a second at 4K. The GoPro, I had to turn off image stabilization so it didn't get a delay through the VR1. The other thing I needed to do was make sure that it wasn't on 4:3 but 16:9, so it got the full video width, and I didn't have those little sidebars on the side with this camera. And then the Z cam, I just had to turn off the HDMI settings so it doesn't show all the menu option items passing through to the VR-1HD. From a connection standpoint, these are just HDMI cables. You should look on the back of the cameras to make sure that you get the right adapter that goes to standard HDMI into the VR1, and whatever connections required for the GoPro and the Sony, you'll just need to make sure you get those cables. So the last thing I'll mention is lighting. So lighting is really important. With all of these cameras, they have different capabilities in low light conditions. So making sure that you have a well-lit shot is going to make that video experience for the far-end participants all that much better. So those are the things that you need to think about. How are you going to mount the cameras? Where are you going to put them? Lighting. Making sure you have the right cables to connect from the camera to the VR1, making sure you have the right USB cable from the VR1 to your computer, where you're going to set everything depending on your use case, and how you're going to control the VR1 if you're doing a live stream. So if I'm in a live stream and I want to make it go to option 1 or 2, making sure that I know what these buttons do so I can very quickly switch over from camera view to camera view, and the far-end participants don't really notice that I'm sitting here messing around with this. So you'll want to learn this piece of equipment before you go live, just so you're not worried about it. The other thing is some of these cameras have auto shutoffs. This camera, I think by default was 15 minutes if it's not recording. You'll want to make sure that you set those timers maybe to never shut off automatically, or to extend it beyond the time that you think that you'll be in your webinar. The other thing is I would do a mock run through before going live in any type of webinar, because you're going to find out, hey, maybe this camera shuts off after 15 minutes. Maybe the battery doesn't make it. Maybe I need to get a USB connector so that this thing is charging while I'm doing my videos. The other thing could be resolution. Maybe things don't come out in the layout that you want. So these are all things that are important to think about as you're going in to stream live and really just enhance those virtual meetings. So I hope this helps you when you're thinking about how to enhance your live meetings. Now, whether it's a Cisco Webex meeting, it's a Zoom meeting, it's a Microsoft Teams meeting, as long as they're going to take the computer's camera input and mic input, it doesn't really matter what the platform is you're streaming this from. I mean, it could be Facebook Live. All of those options are available. This piece of equipment makes it so much easier than some of the software options out there. But just because you've got some physical buttons, it's a physical device, and it's just going to work every single time. So I think this is a great addition if you are going to be streaming stuff out to the internet, or you want to enhance your meeting experience. I hope I covered everything that you had questions about. If you've ever looked at one of these VR-1HDs, if I said anything in this video that you're like, hey, I'd love to know more about that, make sure you leave a comment, make sure you like and subscribe so you get all of our content as we release it, and we will see you on the next one. Thanks for watching.